welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher.
So let's jump right into it.
We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. What is going on, YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and welcome back to another video. Today we're here for a comic book spotlight, none other than Tales of Suspense number 39, the first appearance of Tony Stark and Iron Man. But before we get started in this video, like always, I'm going to ask you, if you're not a current subscriber of the channel and have been enjoying some of my content, do me a favor, go ahead and click the subscribe button for me. You will not regret it. Also, smash that like button and turn on the notification bell because it lets you guys know when I post new videos. With that said, if you haven't checked out my website, mightycollects.com, I'm continuously posting new books for sale if you guys are interested. But we're going to jump right in here, and the cover artist for this book was none other than the great Jack Kirby with art by Don Heck. The release date for this book was December 10th, 1962, but the cover date was March of 1963. The writer was Stan Lee and Larry Lieber, the penciler was Don Heck, the inker was Don Heck, and the colorist was Stan Goldberg. The letterer was Artie Simek, and of course the editor-in-chief back then was none other than the great Stan Lee. Of course, in this classic book, Tales of Suspense number 39, we don't see Iron Man in his classic red and yellow costume. It wasn't until issue 48 that he dons those classic threads. If you don't know the real story of Tony Stark and Iron Man, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. In a closely guarded lab, Anthony Tony Stark shows off a new invention to U.S. military defense officials. He has developed microtransistors capable of powering up things such as magnets, turning them into powerful weapons strong enough to pull open a thick metal door from a distance. They increase magnetic force 1,000-fold. Stark impresses the military brass with his new inventions, while at the same time impresses the ladies of the international jet set with his dashing good looks and incredible personal wealth. Across the globe, the evil red tyrant Wong Chu takes over another small village in Vietnam, defeating its strongest men in contests of judo. Meanwhile, Tony Stark has arrived in Vietnam to observe the testing microtransistor-powered weaponry, which allow heavy items like mortars to be reduced in size no larger or heavier than a flashlight. Accompanying a squad of soldiers equipped with his weaponry on a patrol through the jungle, he accidentally triggers a tripwire that detonates a landmine. The wounded Stark is captured by Wong Chu's forces and taken to their nearby headquarters. Wong Chu realizes his prisoner is a famous Yankee inventor and decides that it will put him to work in the service of a communist insurgency, even though doctors determine the young inventor only has days to live before shrapnel reaches his heart. Wong Chu falsely promises that he will have a surgeon save Stark's life if he will agree to develop new high-tech weapons for him. Even though he saw through Wong Chu's words to his true intentions to make him work until his death, Stark agrees in order to try and save his own life with his technical abilities and Wong Chu's resources. Given access to scrap metal and tools, Stark promises he will deliver a fantastic weapon, but sets out in building a mechanism that will help him stop the shrapnel from penetrating his heart. He is given an assistant named Professor Yinsen, a famous physicist who Stark had read about while in college. Working together to finalize work on Stark's project, an iron bodysuit with a chest plate that will keep the shrapnel at bay through use of transistor-powered magnets. Just as Stark has donned the life-saving suit and begun to power it with electrical current from a generator, Wong Chu attempts to come check on his prisoners. Professor Yinsen rushes out into the hallway shouting at Wong Chu and is shot dead by armed guards, buying the precious seconds Stark needed to fully charge the armor. Tony Stark, as Iron Man, hears the murder of his friend and swears he will avenge his death. He tries to rise and steady himself in the Iron Man armor, but discovers it is like learning to walk again. He quickly gets the hang of operating the armor and evades detection from Wong Chu by leaping to the ceiling and holding himself there using suction cups. After Wong Chu leaves the room, the tyrant heads outside to amuse himself with his favorite sport, challenging the villagers to a duel of judo. Iron Man descends from the ceiling and finds a coat and hat with which to cover his armor and wanders outside to find Wong Chu tossing people around in the judo area. Iron Man challenges Wong Chu, then takes off his coat and hat to reveal the shocking visage of Iron Man. The metal monster walks up to Wong Chu, picks him up, and twirls him around before tossing him into the brush. Wong Chu demands that his guards open fire on Iron Man, but the bullets just bounce off the armored figure's metal chest plate. Iron Man then uses reverse magnetism to repel the enemy weapons. Wong Chu tries to get to the speakers of the nearest building in order to put a bounty on Iron Man, but Stark manages to create an electrical interference and switch the radio's channel, telling Wong Chu's troops through the speaker to flee their leader before the Iron Man slays them all. Iron Man cuts down the building's door using a transistor-powered buzzsaw, but as soon as he enters, the communist menace fells him with a file cabinet loaded with rocks. Wong Chu escapes to order the execution of all his prisoners, but Iron Man, low on energy and too weak to continue pursuit, uses his armor's lubrication system to launch a stream of oil towards an ammunition depot near the fleeing Wong Chu. He then sets fire to the oil stream using a miniature torch in one of his armor gauntlets, causing the ammo dump to explode and seemingly kill Wong Chu. His batteries now recharged, Iron Man dons his coat and hat and walks away into the jungle. I really enjoyed reading that synopsis. I can't believe how much of the original material they used in the first Iron Man movie. They basically just took all that great stuff and poured it into a movie into today's settings, right? A lot of the characters are the same. They changed a few things here or there, but the major storyline, everything that Iron Man is from that storyline, they portrayed in that movie, and absolutely love it. There is a reason why that movie still is one of my favorites of all time. But at the end of these videos, what I'd like to do is go through the numbers with you guys, go over where the book has been in the past, where it is right now, and of course, where I think it's going in the future. One other side note, a couple of guys have been on down my throat about my Amazing Fantasy video, how they say that it's not really the time to buy now because it's still dropping. And I'm going to say this, it doesn't matter. If you plan on holding these books for the long term, there will always be better opportunities to buy. But we're talking about a book that's really come down probably about 50% on the highs, and I always think that's probably the best time to buy. If you miss a few thousand here or there, it doesn't matter if you're a long-term collector. And a lot of these books that I do these spotlights on, they're Grail comics, right? They're books that should be in your collection for the long term. So hey, if you miss out here on a couple $100, a couple $1,000, it is not a big deal if you're planning on keeping it for the long term. But if you plan on buying it and selling it within the next 6 months, then this probably ain't your video. With that said, the first book I looked at was a 2.0 grade for this book. It is a book that I actually have a 2.0 grade myself. So the 2.0 2020 average on this book was $3,290 on 4 sales. That is absolutely mind-boggling. So we're talking about over this past 2.5 years, this book is really doubled. The 2021 average was $7,290, also on 4 sales at a 2.0. The 12-month rolling average was $8,307 on 6 sales, and of course the 90-day average down to $8,105 only on 1 sale, and that of course was the last sale. So just look at this for a second at a 2.0. The book has gone up tremendously, almost tripling in about a 2-year, a little bit probably over 2-year time period. And of course, it has really only come down about $200 in that time period that this book has come down. What does that tell you? That people want to own this book. People are still looking for copies of this book to own in their personal collections. And of course, there are people out there still flipping this book as well. However, now, like I said, if you're doing that, you're probably not going to keep your money for that long. But regardless, I picked up a raw copy. The copy that I just showed you guys, I picked up for $6,000 on eBay. Now, it is a raw copy. People get panicked about stuff when they see books like that. If they're not familiar with the grading process, if they're not familiar looking at a book and kind of assigning a grade to it. Now, yes, there could have been restoration on this book, but I did communicate to the seller, hey, listen, if there is restoration or if I spot something, the book is always returnable. You have to do that when buying books anywhere for the most part, right? You have to trust the seller and you have to trust yourself and being able to do the things you need to do in order to buy a raw book. But regardless, at 2.0, I think this is a great entry point for any collector if you want to spend a decent amount of money on a Grail comic book. Now, this is not the investment type book that Amazing Fantasy 15 is, or even Incredible Hulk #1, but I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite Marvel superhero Grail. This is one of my favorite Marvel superhero grails of all time, and I absolutely love this cover. Some people don't like it, but you know, to me, it symbolizes everything Iron Man was, from where he started to where he ended up being later on in the comic books. I also have one other grade that I want to show you guys. I took a 1.0 just to show you guys how inexpensive, in my opinion, a 1.0 is. Now, everything, of course, comes down to presentation, so keep that in mind. If you're more comfortable buying a graded book, I think that's great. And most of these GPA sales, if not all of them, they are all CGC graded copies, so keep that in mind. The 1.0 2020 average was $2,958 on 4 sales, which to me is mind-boggling. You could have had a 1.0 for under $3,000. $3,000. Think about that for a second. The 2021 average was $3,903 on 3 sales. Again, not a lot of sales on these books, but regardless, still a nice jump there. The 12-month rolling average for this book at a 1.0 was $5,367 on 4 sales. The 90-day average was $5,500 on 1 sale, and that, of course, was the last sale as well. So this book, again, still climbing, not pulling back. What does that tell you? Maybe they're better investments than we think they are. Again, where this book was and doubling over a 2-year period, to me, is a great investment. Now, we're not going to get that doubling in another 2 years. It's probably going to be quite a while before we get another double. But regardless, Tony Stark, gone from the MCU. Are they going to bring him back at some point? I think down the road, I would love to see him reprise his role for one more movie. Bring him back. People would go absolutely nuts. And when the world needs him the most, that who they're going to call upon? Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. People will never forget that. And that's what I think the ultimate plan is, to give him a break and then bring him back for one more movie. With that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. And I thought I'd give you a little bit of information on Tales of Suspense 39 and Iron Man, the character. This was a really fun one for me to do because I didn't know how much information they took from the original book and portrayed it in the movie, and then kind of they went from there, and that started it all in the MCU. So this is really an important book, not just because it's the first appearance of Iron Man, but this book is the first appearance of the MCU. Don't ever forget that. Maybe that's why this book hasn't really gone down. Hope you enjoyed this one. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.